fantasy basketball season, and here's a few centers I would look to drop this week. The first guy's Nerlens Noel of the New York Knicks. Noel, he's filled in pretty well for Mitchell Robinson the last few weeks here, where Robinson went down with a broken hand. But Noel, his stat lines and his production for fantasy hasn't been good. He's been better for real life for the New York Knicks than fantasy owners has Noel. So on the season, Noel, he's ranked 104 in fantasy basketball, 4.6 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, 66% from the foul line and 59% from the field. But the last few weeks now, he's averaging only 1.3 points a game, 4.7 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, and only 33% from the field. So those numbers, they're not going to satisfy anyone, especially in fantasy basketball. When rumblings the Knicks would like to trade for Andre Drummond a week before the trade deadline now, and also give him a multi-year contract, I think the writing could be on the wall for Mitchell Robinson or Nerlens Noel if the Knicks go ahead and do make that deal for Andre Drummond. And since the All-Star break ended, the last 3 games for Noel: March 11th at Milwaukee, 2 points, 1 rebound, 2 blocks. March 13th at the OKC Thunder, 2 points, 8 rebounds, and a block. And last night versus the Brooklyn Nets, no points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. So Noel, he was a hot pickup for a few weeks here in fantasy basketball, but right now he's just not producing the numbers. He's not scoring the basketball at all, and I know he's a block specialist, but you can find better options on the waiver wire, and he's already been dropped in 7% of fantasy leagues, so he'll be the first center I will look to drop this week. The next guy is Davis Bertans of the Washington Wizards. So Bertans, he had a couple flashes of some good games a few weeks ago, but now Bertans, he's back to the mediocre and poor performances. On the season, he's ranked 173 in fantasy basketball with 11.2 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2.9 threes a game, 85% from the foul line, and an awful 39% from the field. But in the last couple weeks, he's ranked 228 in this time as Bertans, 9.4 points a game, 2.8 rebounds, 2.2 threes, 46% from the field, and 85% from the foul line for Bertans. So his performances, he's barely cracked double-digit points in the last few games. His minutes per game have gone down. He even missed the game on March 13th versus the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's just a headache to own this season. Bertans, I think he was a one-hit wonder last season, and he got his big contract this year, 5 years, $80 million. Washington gave him to re-sign, which was a boatload of money. And with Russell Westbrook on the team this season, he just doesn't fit. And the last 3 games from Bertans: March 12th versus Philly, 3 points, 1 rebound, and a 3. March 13th, he didn't play. And then last night versus Milwaukee, another mediocre game for him. 9 points, 2 rebounds, a steal, and he did add the 3 threes, and that's the only thing he's given fantasy owners is his 3-point shots made per game. But right now, he's a droppable player, in my opinion. He's just not getting the job done. And Washington, they've been cutting his minutes as well. So Bertans, I think he's an easy drop here at the center position. And the third and final center I will look to drop this week's Paul Millsap of the Denver Nuggets. So Paul Millsap, he's been up and down this season. He's the veteran big man for this Denver Nugget team. And Millsap, he's owned still in 35% of fantasy leagues at the center and forward position. He qualifies at both, but on the season, he's ranked 148 is Millsap, 10.1 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.2 threes a game, 68% from the foul line, and a decent 50% from the field. But the last few weeks, he's ranked 182 in this time with 7.3 points a game, 6 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.3 blocks, 39% from the field. So Millsap, he's just not scoring the basketball. His percentages are pretty poor, and he's putting up numbers that you really don't want on your fantasy team, and he's not putting up the big games. March 12th at Memphis, 11 points, 7 rebounds, and assist and 2 blocks. March 13th versus Dallas, 5 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, and a block. And then last night versus the Pacers, only 6 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. So Millsap, the numbers just haven't been there. The production and consistency hasn't been there. Right now, he's only playing about 20 to 25 minutes per game. And Denver, they're going with the younger guys and trying to win ball games with those guys. So Millsap, he's been dropped in 2% of fantasy leagues this week, and he should be dropped pretty much in every fantasy league, unless you're in the deepest league, 16-team leagues or deeper. So that's a few centers I would look to drop here in week 12 of the fantasy basketball season.